there are roles structurally that require you to be an asshole, and that's like your job. So to be a boss is to be an asshole who, if your job is to maximize profit, right, for the shareholders, by definition, that means minimizing, right, the wealth of the workers and minimizing care for anyone other than the shareholders. And that's like you doing your job. And so like you are structurally incentivized to be the biggest asshole you can be, to feel entitled to do that, to harm others as much as possible in order to extract as much profit as possible. And that's just your social role, right?
Yeah. And it's, again, maybe we could talk in a minute about the asshole capitalism, but it's a marked contrast with the way that Japanese executives tend to behave. Like every once in a while, like I remember some years ago, Nintendo was going through a rough patch and the CEO accepted, and all the executives accepted major reductions in salary. I think the CEO took like a $1 salary or something like that. And it wasn't one of those fake $1 American salaries where they get a bunch of stock options instead. It was actual, pain, because it was like, we're leading the company and, times aren't so good. And so, the sacrifice has to be broadly shared and we can afford it the best. And that sort of, magnanimous, discipline and concern for the firm as a group of people and as an ongoing thing, rather than just a machine that spits money out. And the harder you step on the workers, the more comes out. And
that's why there's cultural, like in Japan, or structural, like you're reporting in the Faroe Islands or in other like countries where built into their political economy is collective bargaining or a certain like division of the board between workers and owners. And there are kind of structural ways to prevent the kind of culture of neoliberalism from taking hold, and like in a way a kind of obstacle for assholes to develop. It like blocks the manufacturing of assholes in certain ways, those designs, right?
Yeah, high taxation on profits and high incomes do the trick, where maximizing shareholder value, quote unquote, doesn't it make any sense beyond a certain level because the government's going to take it all. And so more of the corporate surplus will go to workers, will go to research and development. And in fact, there's just so many ways in which it's a self-undermining, the way that assholism eats itself, because focusing on shareholder value at the very short term without thinking at all of the corporate structure of the firm as an actual sort of organism made up of human beings, it ruins the value of the firm over the long time. We've seen this so many times. Boeing, for instance, they can't make the fucking planes anymore because they've been looting their own company for short-term profits, and now they got nothing to sell.
I mean, it's the same thing about capitalism writ large. If accumulation and growth is all that matters, right? When we have finite resources, then, you're going to, it's like the Ouroboros. You're going to eat your own, you're going to destroy the very source of the growth and the profit, because you're going to, create climate change, destroy lives and communities and natural resources. Right. It's again, when something isn't an end or a purpose, but it's just a mere instrument, which is what accumulation is. It's like growth for the sake of growth. That necessarily leads to kind of perverse consequences and self-undermining consequences, which is why, just to bring it back to philosophy for a second, Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, right? Where, there's three different formulations of it, but basically like you give yourself the moral law, but only if you can universalize it. And so what this does is it kind of reveals that anyone who takes advantage of the norms of society or the social cooperation is an asshole, right? Because if everyone did that, you wouldn't even be able to get away with it. So here's an example. I can only lie because most people generally tell the truth. So my deceit only works because people most of the time will trust that what you're saying is true. And that's how my deceit works. If everyone lied all the time, no one would trust anyone, and you wouldn't be able to get away with deceiving someone. It wouldn't work. Right.
Yeah.
If you universalized it. And so the asshole breaches norms that actually serve the asshole. The asshole takes advantage of the fact that other people aren't assholes. And that's the only way it works. The only way you can be an asshole. And there's something I think profound in that like even the most antisocial person is only getting away with their nonsense because of how most people aren't that way. And it's a extra perversion and insult to everyone else. Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And that's a good, I think, place to talk about, one of his later chapters, asshole capitalism, and this is, that story about Hank Paulson and the CEO of Merrill Lynch comes from that chapter. But
yeah, he gives like these three characteristics, right? Asshole capitalism affirms expansive entitlements, and it has the undermanagement of those entitlements, and it destabilizes itself through those expansive entitlements, something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And so it's a self-perpetuating asshole creation machine, and it basically is exactly what's happening right now under Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Quote, the system is now sending a powerful entitlement message, for instance, that having ever more is one's moral right, even when it comes at a cost to others. As asshole thinking and cultures spread and take hold, the asshole dampening systems that used to keep assholery in check become overwhelmed. Parents start preparing their kids for an asshole economy. The law is increasingly compromised, the political system is increasingly captured, and so on. As some switch sides while others mainly withdraw, cooperative people find it more difficult to uphold the practices and institutions needed for capitalism to do right by its own values. By God, if that isn't exactly what's happening. And it reminds me of a story coming out of Delaware in the last couple of days, which is basically that a bipartisan coalition, Republicans and Democrats, in the Delaware state legislature, supported by the governor, another Democrat, they have introduced a wholesale rewriting of Delaware's corporate law, in which would basically throw the whole thing out so that Elon Musk can get $55 billion. Because, as recall, he's been in court because a Delaware Chancery Court judge rejected his bid to his shareholder package as being not basically fulfilling shareholder value. He was getting options that were worth at the time something like 4 times the entire profit of Tesla had ever gotten in its entire existence. And so he threatened to reincorporate Tesla in Texas. Even though that doesn't mean you can just, you would have to like redo it, and they might redo the shareholder vote. It might not work. Anyway, a lot of complications. So now Elon Musk's lawyers have written this, and now both political parties are going to introduce this. And, the thing, of course, everyone knows, that Delaware, is a corporate haven. They've made it a whole specialty, but I think it's important to realize that doesn't just mean that they do whatever one single corporation wants. Like they've specialized in this, and it's not entirely cynical. Like their whole value proposition is that like Delaware state law is a place where you can get really quick, rapid, fair, transparent, and repeatable decisions for corporate disputes. It's something that makes sense in a business term. It's corrupt as shit. It was like designed more or less by and for corporations,
but it has its function.
It's got there's a logic to it. And this is not that logic. For 50 years, the Delaware corporate code has been written by a specialist panel of experts who are all about that kind of stuff, about like making the process work efficiently. Now they're going to throw that whole thing out, including, by the way, a whole bunch of, protections for minority investors, the small guy, who's not fucking Vanguard or BlackRock, who, might want to investigate certain companies, get filings, that sort of thing. Most of that stuff's going out the window. And then Elon Musk gets this just transparently ridiculous pay package that's like 1,000 times larger than any of the other already bloated, incredibly ridiculously oversized corporate pay packages from history. Like this one makes those look like chump change for a company that is struggling in the marketplace and probably about to enter a death spiral of declining sales and toxic brand equity. And yeah, if that is an example of like assholism undermining the system, which supports capitalism as like a political economic system in the first place, boy, hard to think of anything better than that.
That's the end of the preview, folks. As usual, we like to mention that this podcast is sponsored by the American Prospect Magazine. So if you want to listen to the whole thing, you can subscribe at $5 a month if you want that, plus a free subscription to the website, plus the opportunity for a steeply discounted print subscription. You can do that if you so wish at $10 a month. And otherwise, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.